Graphing linear equations, part 8. In today's lesson, students will learn how to graph a system of equations that intersect at one point. Where do they intersect? Very good. Today we'll be looking at graphing two lines now that have different slopes and different y-intercepts. When we graph those lines, their point of intersection is called a solution. It's called a what? A solution. So when we find the point where they intersect, we're going to write the solution x comma y, whatever point that is. So let's take a look at number 1. Number 1 says y equals negative 1/2 x minus 4. And then you have another line to graph, which is y equals 2x plus 1. Let's take a look at these slopes for a moment. Slope is m. What letter is it? M. Here the slope is negative 1/2. And here the slope is 2. Okay? So these slopes are sort of opposite of one another, right? One is negative and one is positive. But if you take a look at their slopes, I'll put it down here. Negative 1 over 2, as well as 2. Could we put that over 1? Yes, absolutely. So these are two different slopes, but what they are called are negative reciprocals, which means if I multiply this together, okay, negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. What's 2 times 1? It's 2. So I end up with negative 1. This is going to create special type of lines which are called perpendicular. Called what? Perpendicular. Which means they're going to intersect at a point that is going to be 90 degrees. So it looks like a T. Okay? That intersection looks like a T. So let's go ahead and identify the y-intercepts so that we can graph the line. What's the y-intercept here? It's negative 4. Very good. And the y-intercept in the second line is 1. So let's graph the first line, okay? So the first line starts at negative 4. We're going to go to negative 1, 2, 3, 4. You ready? From that point, we're going to go down 1. It's telling us to go down 1 and over 2. So down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. We could also go up 1 and over 2, up 1 and over 2. We're seeing that this line, again, has a negative slope of 1/2. So I'm going to make this line, I'm going to make this line red, okay? So make sure you have the first line. Let's take a look at the second line. Make the second line black. The slope is 2. The y-intercept, which we're going to start with, is 1. So let's start at 1. From that point, now, what are we going to do? If the slope is 2, you remember what you're supposed to put under it? You're supposed to put a 1 under it, right? Okay. So we're going to go up 2 and over 1. So up 1, 2, and over 1. Beautiful. Up 2 over 1. Could we go the other direction as well? Could we go down 2 over 1? We're going to want to keep going until we cross or intersect this line. So down 2 over 1. There it is. Okay. So let's make this line. We've already figured out the point of intersection. Let me get one more. Down 2 over 1. Okay. Boom. So we're going to see, you know what? These lines intersect each other, which means they cross each other. The next question is, where do they cross each other? Where? It's right here, right? So what is this point right here? It's going to start at negative 2, go down 1, 2, 3. So the point of intersection, we're going to write now, is negative 2 down 3, negative 3. So this would be the solution to this system of equations. What you're also going to notice is it looks like a T, which means these are perpendicular lines, and we can make a little box to represent 90 degrees, okay? It's like the corner of a box. So go ahead and get that down. Now let's graph this system of equations and see at what point do they intersect. That will be their solution. So the first equation says y equals 2x plus 1. The second equation says y equals 3. Where's the slope? Where is the slope? Is it missing? Okay, you have to recognize if y equals 3, that's the y-intercept, right? The slope here, you don't see it, but it is 0 because it's missing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put 0x. Okay, plus 3. 0x plus 3. 0 times x is 0. That's why it's not there. So let's go ahead and identify the slopes. So the slope for the first line is what? It's 2 over, remember, over 1. And what did we say the slope is for the second line? It is 0. It's going to be 0 slope, all right? So it's going to be a horizontal line if we remember that. All right, let's take a look at the y-intercepts. What's the y-intercept of the first line? It is 1. And the y-intercept of the second line is 3. Okay, so let's see if we can graph these lines. I'm going to go ahead and erase this because the equation for this line is actually y equals 3. Okay? So the first line, we're going to start at the y-intercept at 1. And then we're going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And we can go the other direction, right? We're going to go where? We're going to go down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1. Let's make our line. All right. Next. How would we graph y equals 3? It's a 0 slope, right? Do you remember what kind of line this is going to be? It's going to be a, what do you call this? A horizontal line. That's right. And what we're doing is we're looking at if we graph y equals 3, what point does it intersect this line, which is y equals 2x plus 1. So let's go ahead and make that line. If y equals 3, we're going to go to 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to make a horizontal line. And I'm going to ask you, because y equals 3, what point does it intersect the red line? All right. Here goes. At what point do these lines intersect? Where is it? It's right here. Do we see it? It's right there. That's at 1, 1, 2, 3. Yeah? It's at 1, 3. They intersect at this point. Should I make it a little bit bigger? That's their point of intersection. 1, 3. So that is the solution to this equation. 1, 3. All right? So make sure you have all of that down. Let's take a look at another system of perpendicular lines, which means they're going to intersect at 90 degrees. It's going to look like a T. Let's find out at which point these two lines intersect. First, how do I know that these lines are perpendicular? How do I know that they intersect at 90 degrees? That's because I look at their slopes, right? What's the first one? The first slope is -2, but you have to have a run, so it's over 1. The second slope is 1 over 2. Those are reciprocals, which means the bottom becomes the top and the top becomes the bottom, opposites in a way. If we were to multiply both of those slopes together, -2 over 1 multiplied by 1 over 2. What's -2 times 1? It's -2. What's 1 times 2? It's 2. Okay, -2 divided by +2 is -1. So because these slopes are reciprocals, right, negative reciprocals, you're going to end up with parallel lines. So let's graph and show that. But first, we have to identify the y-intercept. Identify what? The y-intercept. So B is -1. What's B for the second line? It's 4. Great. Let's graph the first line. Let's start at 1, that's the y-intercept. From that point, where are we gonna go? We're gonna go down 1, 2 over 1. Remember, this is a negative slope. Down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Let's go the other direction. Up 2 over 1 to the left, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. I made a lot of lines, a lot of points to see maybe one of these points is going to intersect the second line. Okay, so use a ruler, please, to graph that line. Okay, let's go with the second point. I'm sorry, the second line. So let's start at where? Positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. From that point now, let's go. Now, let me ask you a question. If you go up 1 and over 2, up 1 and over 2, up 1 and over 2, are you going to find a point that intersects? I mean, you are eventually, but wouldn't it make more sense to just start here? Go down 1 and over 2 to find that point of intersection, which is actually right here. Down 1 and over 2. And of course, you can go back to the y-intercept, go up 1 over 2 and up 1 over 2. But I found my point of intersection. It's going to be right here. Yeah. And let's make our line to show that these lines intersect. Make sure you're using a ruler. Okay, great. So our point of intersection right here is what? It's at -2 up how much? 3. -2, comma 3. So we're going to write -2, comma 3. And that is the solution to this equation because that's where these lines intersect. Notice, too, these are perpendicular lines. They're going to intersect at what we call 90 degrees. This is a right angle, 90-degree angle, all right, like the corner of a box. So go ahead and get that down. Now let's graph our last system of equations. First, let's identify the slopes. We have 4x plus 2, y equals 4x plus 2, and y equals -x minus 3. So we have 4 here. And so that's going to be 4 over, what? 1. Now what about this negative here? What does that mean? There's an invisible number here. Do you see what it might be? It's -1. So this is -1, meaning the slope is going to be negative, the line's going to be decreasing. We would do rise over run as -1 over 1. -1 over 1. Very good. All right, and then once we look at the slopes, do you think that these are going to be perpendicular lines? Do they have opposite reciprocal? No. In order for these to be perpendicular lines, what would that have to be? What would this number have to be down here? It would have to be a, what do you think? When the top becomes the bottom. So that would have to be a 4. So these lines are going to intersect, but they're not going to intersect at a 90-degree angle. All right, so let's graph the lines just to make sure. We have the y-intercept here is 2. What's the y-intercept for this one? -3. That's great. All right, let's graph the first line. So we're going to start at 2. Where are we going to start? 2 on the y-axis, and then we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Let's go ahead and go down in the other direction. Down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Let's do it one more time. Down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And then we're going to have our line here. Making sure that you're using a ruler as well. Because if you don't, it will be hard to tell where the lines are actually going to meet. Okay, and the second line, we're going to start at -3, -1, -1, 2, 3. Great. From that point, we can go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And we can. Down 1 over 1 to the right. Down 1 over 1 to the right. Well, we have to go in the other direction because guess what? What's going to happen when we go up 1 and over to the left? We're going to meet at this point. There's our point of intersection. So we can keep going up 1 over 1 and up 1 over 1 to draw our line. Okay. So do these lines look parallel to you? Does it look like a T or does it look more like an X? Looks like an X, right? So the point of their intersection is this one right here. Okay, that point right there, which is what? You start at -1 and go down how many? -2. So their point of intersection is -1, -2. Excellent. Make sure you get that down.